Hey, how's it going, guys? I'm just back here doing a little bit of practice and some prep, getting ready for season that is 4 weeks away. And I've got a shot scenario set up. If you can see that deer target hiding back there in the weeds, what that's representing is a deer that I have. It's a target deer. I've been watching him throughout the summer this year. I know where he's bedding at, and more than likely I'm going to have to take a shot at him while he is in standing beans. So I'm trying to get used to the fact that I don't have a leg to reference off of or anything like that, that I just have to see the vitals and shoot for the vitals because they're mostly obscured by beans, weeds, grass, whatever. But while I was doing that, I'm sitting here kind of on this bit of a slope in my yard. It's kind of a side hill. And that got me thinking about taking shots whenever you're side hilling and how that pertains to shooting a stick bow. So what I have learned is that there is certain things that you have to do, especially for guys like me that can't our bow as bow hunters. This is speaking specifically to a traditional bow. And there's certain things that you have to do depending on which direction you're shooting on a side hill, because things are not as you perceive them to be with your sight picture. And what I mean by that is, if you look over here, I hope you guys can hear me with all this wind. If you look over here at these stacked up bales, this target butt that I have over here, I have that orange dot in the middle, and that stick that's up and down underneath of it is perfectly plumb underneath of that spot. Now, from where I sit on this side hill or on this downhill that slopes to the front of me, my natural inclination is that I want to have the tip of my arrow uphill of that spot. But whenever you look at that stick, it almost looks like your point needs to be to the other side of the spot you're trying to hit, but it's really not. The up and downhill angle that you're shooting from and the canting of your bow, and not only that, for us guys that have muscle, I'm not saying I'm real muscular, but we have a heavier upper body, and it naturally wants to lean us one way or the other. If you're already leaned over canting your bow, your gravity wants to push you further over. So I try to force myself to have the tip of my arrow uphill that spot, when really, as you can tell by the stick, it almost gives the appearance that I have to aim downhill of it. But it's really, that's perfectly plumb. I am on a side hill. I hope that makes sense to you guys. And so whenever I'm shooting at this deer back here behind me in this same condition, I find myself doing the same thing, because my center of gravity naturally is pushing me forward, because I'm already on a side hill, canting my bow that direction. The tip of my arrow wants to gravitate too far that way, whenever that is up on level ground, and I really need to try to control the tip of my arrow and control my shot to where I'm keeping it where it needs to be, directly below the kill zone of that deer. The adverse of that, if you're shooting leaning into a hill, for you compound guys, a good rule of thumb is to bubble into the hill with your sight, because by the time you take the shot, you're leaning out. So with a compound, you bubble into the hill just slightly, like half a bubble, and then by the time the shot breaks, your body naturally is leaned back a little bit, and it's level when the shot breaks. I have noticed, because with traditional, you cant your bow. So if I'm shooting on a side hill like this, and it slopes in front of me, what I've noticed I end up doing, because I'm already canting that direction and I find myself trying to lean into the hill, I shoot too far to the right. So I have to make a conscious effort whenever I'm shooting into a hill like this, that I don't cant my bow as much. I cant my bow a little bit less and I sit up a little bit straighter, and my shots seem to go directly where they need to go. These are all things that you don't think about in hunting situations until it's time to take the shot. Even a gradual side hill shot like I'm doing right now can throw your shot off a little bit with traditional gear, and it can make the difference in a poor hit or a less than lethal hit on an animal, or a miss. So I just want to put the frame of thought into your guys' head to pay attention to those things. I'm sure there's some of you guys out there that it really doesn't matter. You grip it and rip it and it works out great for you. But for me, I notice these things. So if I'm shooting into a hill, shooting side hill into the hill like so, I can't cant my bow as much, or else I shoot to the right. I have to make my bow a little bit more up and down and almost make myself physically feel like I'm leaning back a little bit out of the hill. Or else, like I said, I shoot low and to the right every single time. If I'm shooting side hill, shooting out from the hill, facing out from the hill, my center of gravity, same thing. It wants to pull me, down. And then as far as trying to make sure that I am straight up and down with my arrow, it gives an awkward perception of my arrow. It makes me feel like I need to be shooting, having the tip of my arrow more to the left than it needs to be. Because of what's actually plumb and true with the world. I know this is a lot of babbling, guys, but you guys got to get out and practice this and see for yourself. I think you'll notice a difference. So what I'm going to do, just for you guys to see, I'm going to take a shot at the spot down here, and I'm going to shoot it the way that I perceive it, and then I'm going to cut the camera, come back, and I'm going to shoot it for the way I actually need to shoot it. So I'm just going to shoot it the way that I would normally feel like shooting it, the way it looks like what's plumb, up and down, straight underneath the spot that I'm trying to hit. And you really notice this more when you're shooting at spots, a little spot like that compared to a big kill zone. I'm just gonna shoot it what I feel like I need to, and you guys will see where I impact. And then the next shot, I'll shoot it for how I should. So see that? I shot not only low, I shot a few inches low. Some of that was my bad. But I shot low and a little bit off to the right because I was canting over a little bit more. And my center of gravity was wanting to pull me that way. And I ended up shooting low to the right. Like I said, for me, I tend to have the same problem no matter what, because I want to cant my bow, and now I'm canting my bow and leaning downhill, and it just wants to keep going downhill. Whereas if I'm shooting facing into the hill, I'm trying to like overcorrect or something like that, where I'm leaning into the hill and canting my bow over. So no matter what, for me, I seem to shoot low right. So let me cut the camera, and I will show you how I would position my body, my bow, and where I would aim to take this shot again. Here I am, I'm seated right now. I would do the same thing if I was standing, but I am facing out from the hill. My center of gravity of my body naturally wants me to not only cant my bow, but kind of falling out away from the hill. So I'm going to force what I feel like is kind of forcing my body to be more upright. Almost feel like I'm leaning back into the hill whenever I'm really not. I'm actually perfectly straight up and down. I just feel like I'm leaning back. So kind of force myself to feel like I'm leaning back just a little bit, straighten my bow up just a little bit, and I should hit pretty darn close. And keep the tip of my arrow a little bit to the left of the spot, or the right, sorry, of the spot that I'm trying to hit, because like I said, from here, what I think being on a side hill is straight underneath that spot really isn't. It's actually downhill of that spot because of what actual level straight down actually is compared to what the eye thinks that it is. So here we go, leaning back, gonna lean back towards the hill a little bit, straighten my bow up a little bit more, and take the shot. Still a little bit low, and maybe 2 inches to the right. I'll take that shot one more time for you guys. I think some of the problem right now with my shooting to the right is I'm overcompensating that, holding the tip of my arrow downhill from the spot just a little bit. So I'll try to ring that in, bring that in just a little bit, rein it in, and get it a little closer. So leaning back into the hill just a little bit, straighten the bow up a little, and try it again. Nailed the spot. Like I said, it doesn't feel totally natural, but it really is, especially by the time I take that shot, because same thing as I told you guys about bubbling into the hill of the compound. With a stick bow, it's kind of the same thing. I'm leaning back, canting my bow, not quite as much, but by the time the shot breaks, I kind of feel myself creeping forward a little bit. And the same thing will happen if you're leaning into the hill. So that is how I take side hill shots. It's a very likely thing you're gonna do when hunting, and it does make a difference with a traditional bow, especially if you cant, because you're canting already, so your natural inclination is that you're gonna cant even more than you actually are, because you're in a, like right now, I'm on a side hill, my body wants to go downhill, I'm canting my bow, so now I'm canting and leaning farther than I normally would, and my shots are gonna hit low right. All stuff you gotta think about, guys. This could cost you an animal, whether it's a complete miss or, God forbid, a bad hit. So grab your bows, your arrows, get outside, whether it's in your yard, in the woods somewhere, practice these side hill shots. A very likely shot that you may have to take. So thanks for watching this video, guys, and I'll catch you on the next one.